channel. I hope you're all having a great week. It's already like May pretty much. Like, where is the time going? 2021, who, like, what is going on? So, in today's video, we're going to talk about ways you can get your dream job, how to secure the bag, how to get the job you want, resume tips, interview tips, all of that. Because I think it's not really like taught. I mean, I remember a section in RN school maybe where we had to do like mock interviews, but I feel like it went by fast and people really didn't take that serious. I know I really didn't. But here are, things that I've learned before. I've always gotten like at least an interview from a position I applied for, or at least, the job that I wanted based upon, my resume and my interviews. And here's little tips and tricks that I picked up. So first things first, when you're applying for the job, always aim high. Go get that job that you want, that you may think you're unqualified for. Believe me, they may hire you. So from jump, especially like new grads, if you don't have experience in a job, especially nurses, this is going to be very nurse RN based. They're going to list your qualifications or their qualifications that they want baseline for the job. So always leaf through those. Like if you have no experience and they want experience, obviously, don't apply for that. But if they, say they want like 2 years experience and you maybe have like one, that's something we can kind of like finesse with. At the end of the day, 1, 2, whatever. And some job applications say BSN preferred or BSN required. So those are some stipulations you want to look at. If you don't have your BSN yet, like myself, when I was applying for jobs, I kind of looked at those. Even some places, they said BSN required, but they were, willing with all the nurse shortages. They didn't care about that. So those are things to consider. But first things first, you want to make sure your resume is updated, top of the line. And I don't like a resume to be too flashy, but I don't like it to be too basic. Not the crazy colors. I still like to keep it like black, maybe navy if I'm doing it. I'm pushing my luck. But, and I like it to be like clean. I do like to keep it to one page. That's getting trickier, as my experience gets longer. But I kind of just want to put my pertinent experience. So there's all kinds of resume templates online. I would suggest using one of those. I mean, Etsy, people make their own. So you can go to Etsy, you can go online. I think I got mine at like some kind of live career something. I don't know. I'll find it and I'll link it here, and I just paid like $1 for it. I like the outline. So I would suggest using a resume template, especially if you're lost or something like that. Or if you have a good friend that's really good at resumes, let them do it for you. But basically your resume, I like it to have, an objective. Always put your objective on there, and don't just put a generic one. I don't like the generic ones. Tailor it to each job you're applying for. If it's med surg, throw something in there. That's your objective. You want to get a job in med surg. You want to get a job in L&D. You want to work for this certain company, this department. You've always envisioned it. Put something like that in your objective. Don't just make it generic. I'm a nurse, I bring this to the table. I don't know, it's just boring. Always put good references, people that are gonna pick up the phone and can vouch for you, that you've worked for before. I mean, if you have to put some of your little friends because you don't have like reliable resources, the name of the game. If you're a good person, they can vouch for you, whatever. But basically professional references, and I would check with those references, especially if it's been a couple of years. Touch base with them, be like, hey, you might hear from this, so they could actually give you a good reference, and pick up the phone when someone calls. And then make sure you put your certifications, like your BLS, all that is on there. You're actually licensed, your ACLS, whatever you have, PALS, you name it. Put every little thing that you don't work for on there. If you have none of that, it's good to put, what school you graduated from, what year, what program. Especially if you're like a new grad, obviously you have to put that like in your objective, like newly graduated nurse seeking position in med-surg, seeking position in L&D. Why can I only think of ICU? whatever you want to put, tailor it to that. You know, put any accolades you did in school, any awards. You can just it up like that. You know, if you don't have a lot of experience, if you served on a committee at school, especially if it's like nursing pertinent, do all of that. So those are ways to like kind of zhush up your resume, and obviously spell check always. When you're not prescribing, what a brain fart, oh my god, when you're describing your job, always, you know, zhush up the words. Like, don't use the same word over and over. Put new words, put something different, you know, spice it up, razzle dazzle, just like you would spice up those papers in school. Spice up your resume. And I'm telling you, it's guaranteed to get you the job, especially if you tailor the objective to what job you're applying for. They can tell you put more time into your resume. They're automatically gonna flag it. So that's some resume tips. Also, another way, most people apply for jobs. They either go through the job webpage on the site, like Texas Children's, Memorial Hermann. They go to that career site and apply for the jobs. But another little loophole, besides like Indeed and all that stuff as well, you can look up like the HR department's talent requisition officers and officials, not officers, child, but talent requisitions. Those people work exclusively for HR to pull resumes and things like that. Sometimes you can send them, they already have their email listed, just shoot your resume to them and be like, hey, I saw you're listed as a talent requisition personnel. I'm looking to get into this field. Here's my resume if you would like to leaf over it, if you have anything. Cut out the middleman of applying. They could like push you over, because especially their job depends on how many people get hired for the job anyway. So that's another little loophole. Look at talent acquisition personnel and see, you know, there's nothing wrong with just reaching out to them and see, and they can point you in the right direction sometimes too. I've gotten my current job, because someone gave me a talent requisition personnel's email. Like, I went through that instead of like going through the process of being, you know, go through online. It was a lot quicker. Like, I got the interview like the next week, you know, boom, 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 got the job within like 2 weeks. So it goes a lot faster if you do it that way. Also, other good things, once you get called for an interview, this is how some of the processes go, especially now with COVID. They may do like a phone interview first, and kind of the recruiters or HR, they kind of screen you and see what your experience is, and then they'll push you through to the managers. So even with that phone kind of interview, kind of have yourself prepared for what they may ask you. Like, know already if you want to work days or nights, or if you want to be flexible. Know already kind of what your salary range you're going to ask you. They always ask you that on the phone. They go over your resume, so be ready to go over that. They ask you questions like, how long have you been a nurse, or what is making you think about coming to this position, and blah, blah, blah. They kind of give you like a quick base little kind of screening before they put you through to the managers to interview for. So be prepared for that. Again, nowadays with COVID, you may do an interview in person, you may do it over Zoom. A lot more places are starting to do it in person because people are vaccinated. You know, they're kind of being more relaxed with seeing people face to face. But I'm gonna just go with like the old school face to face interview, my tips there, because you can, you know, move them to Zoom. It's no real difference, except, you know, you may be in pajama pants and like a cute top. That's about it. But basically, my biggest pet peeve with interviews is dress for the part. Don't show up in scrubs. I don't care who told you it was okay. They told us it wasn't in school. I know I've done it way back when in the past when I was a tech. Like, it didn't really matter, I thought, but it does matter. It just makes you seem like more put together. If you have to go somewhere and you have to work, maybe you need to move your interview. You don't need to be going like straight to work so you can wear your scrubs. So dress for the part. Cute, you know, casual little business casual pants. I don't like business casual either, people. Nice pencil skirt, dressed appropriate. Don't be showing your tatas. Smell good. Show up early. That's another thing. I run late everywhere. I'm gonna stop and get my iced coffee, like, no matter what. But this is the day. If you want the job, you just need to not get your coffee. You can get it after the interview. So that's one time I will skip the lines. I will be driving on E if I need gas. Like, I will make it to the interview 15 minutes before, especially if you don't know where you're going, especially if it's a new town like it was for me. Sometimes, like, I would show up like an hour before, like, just to make sure, because I get lost easy. I know where I'm going. Worst case scenario, they have a Starbucks there, you can get coffee, or a little cafe, you just sit and wait. Just do you. Be prepared. So show up dressed to impress. Don't show up too hoochie dressed or too like wrinkled. Show up like you really spent. Do your little hair, makeup. Don't show up looking sloppy. Be prepared. Okay. Early, like I said, and always have a pen, piece of paper, a notebook, something to write on, because they may ask you to do something like that, and bring a copy of your resume. Most people can pull it up in their emails nowadays, but on the off chance they ask you because something isn't working, you have, oh, I have it right here, boom, there you go, you ain't got no problem. And the pen and paper is, sometimes they ask you if you have questions, which I'll get to that later. So you just open up your notebook, you already have your questions written down, so you can like, oh yeah, I wrote them down there right here. Or they ask you to write something down. You're already just prepared. Just be prepared in that sort of sense. So once you get, through the interview, be all smiles, introduce yourself. They're gonna ask you, all employers ask you the same generic questions. I don't care where you're going, what department you're going. They're gonna ask you these several questions. So I already have your answers rehearsed. I have my basic answers. I've been having them for years. I kind of tweak them if I need to. So I'm not caught off guard and being like, let me think. It's just awkward. It's just weird. So have those prepared. The number one question they will always ask you is, what made you want to work here? Why do you want to work here? So always have a finesse. You can always insert place here. I would like to work blank because I saw the mission statement blank, or I've always wanted to work here blank. I've always wanted to work in this department because blank. Know why you want to work there. Don't be like, oh, I thought the pay was good. No, pull something out like they have a good mission statement. You heard good things about the place. You always wanted to work in this department with this set of patients, with this, you have a calling to want to be there. Things like that. Another question they will always ask you is, tell me about a time where you had to go above and beyond to help a patient or something like that, a difficult situation you had to deal with, or difficult employees. Always have that answer prepared. A time where you went above and beyond for a patient, a time where you had to deal with a lot of stress or difficulties or anything like that, a difficult patient or staff member. Always have those answers prepared, so again, you don't have to stumble. Well, this one time, I remember years ago when I was a nurse, I worked with a patient who got in a car accident and wasn't able to have a shower for a good 2 weeks. Her hair was very matted. She didn't feel good about herself. And, so I decided to take the initiative, wrap all of her wounds, this leg, that leg, get her in the shower, do her hair. Even though, I didn't have really the time, I took the extra time. I was just late on, a few other things that I could push to the side. And just to let her feel more human or things like that. Boom, out of the way. Or, difficult personnel or difficult coworkers. One time I worked with 2 coworkers that really didn't get along, and they actually just refused to do certain things, and it just messed up the whole flow of the unit. So I had to pull them to the side and, let them talk out their differences and make sure that they really knew that no matter what is going on, we're not here for us. We're here for our patients, and blah, 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 blah. Always have that prepared. No matter what the job, they're going to ask you those questions. And then be prepared maybe sometimes to answer some nursing questions, because they will. I've had a couple of interviews, they will ask you that, like, which patient is the priority? They have always asked me that question, like, this is what's going on the floor, like, how would you handle this? Don't get flabbergasted. Be prepared to answer things like that. What other things do they ask? Basically, here's the other question. Here's where my little right pad comes into play. Every job will ask you, what questions do you have for me? And if you say nothing, or if you say, well, how much is the pay? No, they're gonna know you're a fraud. They're gonna know you're a fraud. So basically, that's where your notebook could come in handy. You could write down questions in advance if you would like. Just like 1 or 2 is good enough. You don't need to be asking these people for a full interview. Some kind of good generic questions would be like, what would you say people say about that they like working here? What would, I saw that your mission statement was this. How do you enforce that? How do you ensure that? What basically, I know that this unit is a med-surg unit, but what kind of do you see as your patient population? What kind of sort of the problems are coming in here and things like that? What would you say a typical day is like for your employees? Like different things like that. So you seem interested in more than I just need a job that pays well, because at the end of the day, we all need that. We know that, but we got to get in there before we making, all kinds of comments like that, sis. Come on now. And usually the people that are interviewing you, they don't know too much about the pay. It's the HR side and the recruiter side. They're gonna negotiate that anyways. But during your interview, you already know like what position, what shift you're applying for or interviewing for. You can make that clear, like this is the day shift, right? Correct, because that's what I applied for, and things like that. But it's just not good to bring up pay yet, unless they bring it up. But bring up pay when you're dealing with HR and the recruiters and the back end and things like that. You can even ask like, how is it with like, having time off? Any questions like that, that would be like your time to ask. Like, how do you work with, time off, PTO, things like that. Those are okay, but pay yet and benefits, and usually that's for like the HR recruitment. So those are really like my number one tips for an interview. Show up early, dress well, have your answers prepared, go over some, common answers and questions that they might ask you, and have a few questions for them. It just looks better, it stands out, because I know some people that have just blown the interview by being like kind of like just starstruck, or they don't have it. Go over some nursing basics, especially if you're applying for like an ER job or ICU job. Go over some common little things that may happen in that department, or especially like the patient priorities and rationales. They may ask you that. So you have those tips, you'll get the job, honey. Have your resume on point, show up, be ready for it, you'll get the job. It has never failed me. I've been using this formula for a couple of years, and in general, I at least get a call back. If I interview, I'm more than likely going to get the job. Like, that's just how it is. That's how I worked my way to where I am now, and pretty much like living the dream. I get to work from home and still see patients in the clinic and get that side of it and make good money and do what I do, and I love it. So telling you. So if y'all have any other questions, leave that in the comment box down below. Any other suggestions for people, you could leave it there. Hit me up on Instagram. And yes, I look forward to the next couple of videos. I have some more tips and tricks. A lot. This week has been crazy. I don't even want to talk about what's going on in my townhouse right now. But yes, look forward to those. Hopefully y'all have a good rest of the week. Bye.